So we're going to make an executive order for Moors outside the temple. Whatever they do inside the temple, I don't give a damn.
Elijah Muhammad came, and that day he ordered us to always show honor and respect to Noble Drew Ali and Marcus Mosiah Garvey. And that stands to this very hour.
There was a man by the name of H.L. Hunt, one of the wealthiest men in the world, Dallas businessman, owned oil wells, was basically in charge of the oil business in the United States, connected to the CIA. Several people suggested he might have had a piece of the Kennedy assassination. We know that he was the largest contributor to the Nation of Islam. He used to give them, from what I understand, over $100,000 a year back in the early 60s.
African Americans began to rediscover their heritage around this time. In 1913, Noble Drew Ali established the Moorish Science Temple of America in Newark, New Jersey. Born Timothy Drew in 1886, he traveled to Egypt where he learned the messages of the Circle 7 Quran.
The Noble Drew Ali movement was very important in our evolutionary progress towards understanding the meaning of and having the desire for freedom, justice, and equality. Noble Drew Ali was a very important part of this evolutionary progress.
In it, in 1913, Brother Noble Drew Ali set up the Canaanite temple in Newark. And it's very, very important because 1914 ended the time of the devil. According to what Allah revealed to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, his time was up to rule us. We are now in our time. And he's in our time. It's very important because Noble Drew Ali was the prime predecessor of Master Fard Muhammad bringing Islam to the black man of America. Yes, while Mr. Garvey would not teach religion, though a Muslim influenced him.
Now here's a guy who's giving big money to a seemingly militant African-American group and a militant white group, the Ku Klux Klan. What is his motivation?
By 1928, Drew Ali had 15 temples with an active membership of over 100,000. He was the first to teach of Prophet Muhammad in the inner cities. In the early 1920s, Duse Muhammad Ali, an Egyptian, and black nationalist Marcus Garvey broadened the concept of Africans in Islam. Ali taught the history of ancient Egypt and expanded the understanding of the Moorish Islamic empires.
This is going to actually have a lot of backlash because from 2 years ago, from all the videos that was put out against people that was dealing with the RBG, trying to get Islam out of the RBG, that's going to look kind of bad if it was a Muslim that brought this red, black, and green flag. So I'm going to start with, matter of fact, I'm going to start with Ishmael. I think you said you know a little this brother history, correct?
Yeah, Duse Muhammad Ali, he was one of the people who was influential in some of the development of Marcus Garvey as far as setting up like printing presses and some of the businesses that he did. Marcus Garvey went to work with him over in England. And about a year or two later, Deuce Muhammad Ali came to work for Marcus Garvey. He is considered like a mentor, like a person who influenced him in certain ways, broadening his views as far as his knowledge of Islam, and some of the insight by him coming from Egypt. He had good insight on that. He was a Pan-Africanist by his thought. He had left America around like 1930, 1931. He went back over to Africa to live. I think it was like in West Africa.
He was the first to profess the Moors were in America before Columbus, in Garvey's newspaper, The Negro World. The movement established an organization in Detroit known as the Universal Islamic Society. In the 1930s, a basic concept of Islam began to find a receptive audience in America's urban centers.
And Mr. Garvey struck more success with the common man by a more nationalistic Pan-African approach, which had something to do with access to land and freedom.
You know, I thought I would walk a little through some of that history, just a little bit, that I've been neglectful of sharing on all these different platforms and formats. I think I might have mentioned this man's name once or twice, but if I may be allowed to, knowledge of God.
Of course, please.
Thank you. Take a few moments.
No.
Pan-Africanism, it's a global concept, meaning wherever, what part of the planet you're on right now is inconsequential, has no relevance greater than where you came from, that keeps us all brothers and sisters. So if you're from Africa, wherever you are now, we are one. No matter what language, what colonizers, language you speak, French, Portuguese, English, German, Spanish, whatever you speak it. If your bloodline is of that origin, peace, queen, how are you? We are all brothers, so Pan-Africanism. And real close to home, black nationalism. Now, one name I'm glad more people know. A few may not, but I'm glad to say, I'm going to say it, and most folks will, yeah, and even respect his work. The Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Fortunately enough, people know about him, but I don't think we uphold his program and the mindset of what he did and how he had a global concept. There was a man who came immediately after the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey that very few know, even here in Harlem, the streets that walk. And I'm going to show a picture of him. Some of you, because there's not even that many pictures of him, which is another interesting part of his story. And although I've heard recordings of the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, who predates him by 20, 30 years, I've never heard his recorded voice because he had no access stand on the media. He never let the media record any of his meetings. He never released press conferences or press statements rather to the media. He never allowed the media to follow him easily. His stand was, how is any tentacle of this oppressor ever going to be used to serve me or serve my revolution or my fight against him? And if you think about it right now, it's such a simple concept. But so many of us, pursue media. And again, I feel I'm in that cabal and being in front of the media so often. I see it as a tool, as almost like an offset printer that the Garvey used to revolutionize getting out the message. So it can be used, but it's still part of their power structure. So let's not go for the okie doke to think everything we're doing is not being monitored and not even being steered. There are no actions taking place in this social media. But peace, good brother. All right, my man. But again, the name is an Honorable Carlos Cooks, and this is his image. And this is the man that had black nationalism on deck right here in Harlem in a way that, oh my goodness, would make your chest swell. And I'm speaking kind of even from oral tradition in a sense, because a little of this I had a front seat to, in that my father was in the African Legion, which was the military wing of the African Nationalist Pioneer Movement. The African Nationalist Pioneer Movement was a movement that this gentleman started, the Honorable Carlos Cooks. And to show you how deep the Pan-Africanism was, how clear it was, Carlos Cooks was born in what was then and still now the Dominican Republic. So he was of Dominican origin. But guess what? They were so clear then that meant nothing. He was an African. And he knew all the brothers he met were Africans.
The Africans ruled Spain from 711. We were calling ourselves Moors. M-A-U-E-R-S, then M-O-O-R-S. 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 We were calling ourselves Moors. M-A-U-E-R-S, then M-O-O-R-S.
So again, so much earlier in time, but our consciousness as raising again was so much higher then.
Wow.
So, but he raised men. And my father, again, I spoke briefly earlier about being around strong men. My father adored this man, Carlos Cooks.
You represent your culture, your tradition. Fezes is our tradition as Moors. Huh. Right? They're going to bring up Carlos Cooks, but they're not going to tell you that Carlos Cooks wore a fez. How come they're not telling you that Carlos Cooks wore a fez? And he was a Garviate. Why is Garviate wearing a fez and then everybody that's backing him wearing black fezes? Why? Don't forget, there's all the, on the side right there, right? There's all the African stuff, right? The stuff that they say, Mars and nothing to do with Africa. Well, there's all this African stuff at the side right there. Okay? All the African stuff, all the symbols that come from Africa. But then, Carlos Cooks, who's Garviate, UNIA and all that, he's wearing a fez. But you're not Moors though? Okay, but Carlos Cooks, you're going to bring him up and say that he was a revolutionary, the black and all this stuff. Okay, well, he's fezzes up.
My father thought the height of, my father was a strong man. So to see my father pay the kind of homage and respect to him, so I saw black power so early in so many different ways.
That's cool.
I remember as a child, fortunately, you know, my father took me to some of the meetings right here in Harlem that the African National Pioneer Movement. Now, again, I'm 6, I'm 7, so, you know, I'm like, I want to get him out of here. I ain't feeling no speeches. Like, yo, I'm tired, I'm restless, and I'm as fidgety as, you know, my dad would allow me to be until he gives you one of them looks. And y'all know when a black man gives you a look like, chill, and then you stop for the rest of the time. But I remember one thing I'll never forget, that as soon as Carlos Cooks walked into a room filled with upwards of 200 men immediately rose to their feet. They raised their right foot and they stomped the ground and said, "Chief!" And it echoed through the room. And to be a child at 7-ish and to see a wall of black men in uniform all standing to acknowledge and respect another black man by the name of Carlos Cooks, who was their leader, their black nationalist leader. So that's where black nationalism was.
He's wearing the Sumerian dunce cap. How come you're not dissing Carlos Cooks? How come Carlos Cooks, who's a Garviate, UNIA, is wearing the feds and you're not dissing him? How come Carlos Cooks is wearing the bucket hat and you're not dissing him? Why you diss Carlos Cooks? They say that they want irrefutable evidence that we're Moors. Okay, here's Carlos Cooks, UNIA Garviate wearing a fez. You think he's wearing a fez because he's not Moor? He's just wearing a fez because it's a cool hat. He's Doctor Who. You let these people play you out your birthrights.
Noble Drew Ali had passed, and many of the former followers of Noble Drew Ali came to join the nation. We write a letter to get an X, but he never ever touched the names that Noble Drew Ali gave to his followers, they already had a righteous name. They already were out from under the enemy.